This is TWiT.
This caught my eye. I love, it's no surprise probably to some of you, but I love smartphones. I revel in them, and I'm always looking for smartphones that do things a little differently. Of course, earlier in the show, talked about the Note 20 Ultra, and that's a very unique phone in its own right. But then there's phones like what we're going to talk about now. Joining us to talk about the PinePhone is Corbin Davenport from Android Police. Welcome to the show, Corbin. Hey,
Jason. Good to be here.
Hey. Yeah, it's good to see you. It's been a very long time, so I'm happy you could take some time to join us today. So let's talk a little bit about this PinePhone, because you actually happen to have one. This is not an Android phone. This is a device that runs Linux, essentially. So I guess let's start with, based on your experience with the PinePhone, you have said in your article that it's the most interesting smartphone that you've tried in years. Share your take on it, who it's for. Why do you think that?
Yeah, so the PinePhone is really unique because it's more like a PC in your pocket than most smartphones we see. It's fully open, just like a regular PC. You can install whatever operating system you want on it. I have it right here. It's a very interesting phone. I believe right now there are 17 different operating systems being developed for it. Wow. Some of those are versions of Linux that are already on desktop platforms, and some of them are software more like what you would see from smartphone operating systems. And there's even a port of Android that kind of works. But yeah, so there's a lot of different software for it. But basically, this is for the kind of crowd who's always frustrated at the lack of openness on modern smartphones. A lot of phones, you can't unlock the bootloader. You can't, rooting Android phones is more difficult now than it used to be. The same with jailbreaking iPhones. So this is really made by and for that crowd of people who want full control over their device, even if it means maybe they don't get the same premium experience that you'd get from an iPhone or a Pixel or whatever.
Now, we missed it when you held up the device. Can you hold it up real quick? I want to get kind of a sense of the design, because in the smartphone world, and I'm sure you would agree, I'm sure you would agree, all these phones at a certain point seem to blend together. Is it instructive to compare it to an Android device? Like, I realize it's not running Android, but in terms of hardware, in terms of the software experience of what you've encountered, like, is that, that feels like the most direct comparison, but like, how do they compare?
Yeah, it's hardware wise, it's very close to like a low end Android phone. So it's got 2 gigs of RAM. It has a pretty big IPS touchscreen on it. It's got USB Type-C. It's got a headphone jack. So, score one for the PinePhone over every other flagship phone now. But the really cool design bits are actually inside the phone. So if I take the back off, it has a replaceable battery, which I haven't seen one of these in a long time. I forgot what it looked like. And it also has, I don't know if the webcam will pick it up, but it has, maybe.
There you go.
It has little, if I can see my finger, little dip switches right here. So you can actually physically turn off the Wi-Fi and the modem and all those other things. So if you're, you really don't want someone to be looking through your front webcam, you don't need to put a sticker over it. You can just flip it off. So it is genuinely cool. And like even there's the company who made this Pine64, they have a giant wiki page about the hardware for this phone. And I was impressed by like just how detailed and like how much attention was given to some of these things. Like, most companies, you don't know what batteries they're putting in the phone or like what the hardware is like. But, with this phone, they even try to make it so it's repairable by anyone, not just them. So like even the battery is based on some Samsung phone. So you can buy replacement batteries from a ton of different companies. So it's really cool the way they built this phone. But yeah, it does feel more like a cheap Android phone.
Yeah.
But I know there are even, I saw some discussion on on Pine64's Twitter where they're talking about making different backs that do more features, kind of like Moto mods, because there are pin connectors on the back for data and power. So I saw there's a couple people working on like a replacement back that adds like a Nokia N95 keyboard, like a slide out keyboard to it. There's some people messing around with adding a gamepad, so it's really cool.
Okay, and that just kind of brings to mind that, coupled with the fact that it's running Linux and not like a made for mobile operating system like Android. That just kind of brings to mind the days of old, and I'm sure some people, well, I know some people definitely still dabble in this, of creating a computer system from scratch, or expanding on their computer system. We haven't seen a whole lot of that in the mobile space. You mentioned Moto mods and the kind of the modular capability of certain phones. None of those have really taken off, but then, maybe they haven't taken off because that idea isn't necessarily made for the mainstream. This really feels like it's outside of the mainstream, but great for people who love to who know exactly what they want and aren't afraid to kind of get their hands dirty and build on those accessories to tap into that dip switch and everything. So I could see a lot of potential there. One thing I thought was funny or interesting about the dip switches, so these are kill switches, and they kill certain the functionality, like they literally deactivate the functionality of certain aspects of the device. And all of them made sense except for the headphone. Why would someone want to kill the headphone? Like, I couldn't quite figure that out. Is that just that they had a part that was this many dip switches and they had to pick a component? I was like, oh, I guess it's got to be the headphone jack. I don't understand why you would need to kill the headphone jack for security purposes.
I briefly read the wiki for that part. It sounded like when you switch off the headphone jack, it changes to like a different data mode. So again, it kind of goes back to like what you would do with the pogo pens on the back. Like there's more hardware customization you could do with that. Like like Square had that card reader for phones that plugged into the headphone jack ages ago. Right. So that kind of stuff.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes a little bit more sense. So then it really seems, to a certain degree, the way it is right now, it's meant a little bit more for the security minded. Did you find yourself in like having the capability of flipping a switch and turning off your camera? Is this something that you've ever wanted? Like, I don't know that I've ever necessarily needed something like that, but I'm also not going to like hacker conferences and that sort of stuff. So I could see an audience there, maybe. What do you think?
Definitely not switching off like the modem and that kind of stuff, because like I need a phone to be a phone.
Yes,
but I could definitely see having a hardware switch for the front camera would be really cool. Even though Android and iPhone are pretty good now about letting you know when apps are using that, just like the idea, like even if my phone is irreparably compromised, no one will see what's in my front camera. Like that's cool. That's why a lot of people put stickers on their webcams, even though again Windows and Mac are good about that now. But I mean, like, there's definitely cases where that's valuable, especially, again, this is for the crowd that really wants full total control and doesn't, a lot of them don't trust Android and iOS and so on. Like there's been cases where applications monitor the accelerometer of the device, like when you're typing on it, how your phone maybe tilts a little bit. There are studies that have showed where some applications can use the accelerometer, which isn't restricted in any way, to sort of guess what you're typing. So there's cases like that where I could see the use in some cases if you're just like, I really don't want anything touching my data. I could see that.
Yeah. Someone in chat also pointed out another good possible use for this is participating in protests. If you want to be certain that you are, untracked or whatever, this would be maybe a better phone to pick than just the phone that you're carrying around on your daily, as your daily driver. What about the app situation? Because sorry,
maybe not for protest specifically, because most of the OSs don't have camera working yet.
Okay, all right. Well, there you go. What about the app situation? Because I mean, obviously, you're not running Android apps on here. Is there an app store for some of these Linux builds, or how do you go about that?
Well, there is one Android port. I did try it out. It barely works because it hasn't been in development that long, but that does have the F-Droid, and I'm sure you could put the Play Store on it and such.
Got it.
The app situation is it depends on what OS you try. The one I bought is the UbiPorts edition, so it came with Ubuntu Touch. which has its own app ecosystem and its own app library. There's not a lot of development going on for that because Ubuntu Touch stopped being developed by Canonical a couple years ago when they couldn't get anyone to make phones with the OS. So now it's just a handful of people making apps for that. Some of the other ones I tried, the one I've used the most is Mobian, which is based on Debian Linux, and it can actually run full desktop applications. So like the same mail app I use on my desktop is on the phone. And there's
how does that scale? How does that scale when you do something like that to the small display?
So some of the apps are just like the desktop app on the phone. So the window's squished down and it's really hard to use. There's another company who made a Linux phone called Librem. They've been working with software developers to make their apps resize in the same way that like websites resize based on the screen size. So more apps than I was expecting are working on the phone with big buttons and designed for touchscreens. So that was probably the most surprising part. I wasn't expecting that many apps to work yet. But yeah, like if you want, you can just install whatever will work on a Raspberry Pi. So I tried installing LibreOffice and I could open a Word doc on my phone. It was very hard to use, but I could do it. I tried installing OBS, but it complained that it couldn't find a graphics card, so that didn't work.
I love it. Oh, I love all the kind of exploration that you could do with a device like this and make some cool discoveries. Linux on a smartphone, like how do you feel about kind of the Linux-based approach on your handset, considering kind of your background in Android and everything?
I'm definitely a fan of it. I use Linux on my desktop and laptop most of the time. So it's cool to have the same basic software on everything. And of course, Linux is more open and there's less of that feeling like I don't really know what's going on behind the scenes in my phone. But it is extremely early for Linux on phones. Pine64 released this phone basically targeted mostly at developers who are going to work on the OSs and make this working. And there's been a very fast progress in making this a usable phone. Like 4 months ago, basically nothing worked. And now, like when I try most operating systems, really it's just the camera that doesn't work right. Like Wi-Fi works, Bluetooth works, the modem works. I was shocked when I bought this phone and put it in and it immediately got 4G on AT&T. So it's getting there. This is still not something that most people could use as a main phone. This is still one of those kind of like Linux on the desktop where like you're sacrificing a little bit to get that ease of mind and privacy and so on.
Yeah, that makes sense. And not to mention, I don't even know if we even mentioned the price. This is not an expensive phone, $150 to $200, right? It's pretty low cost entry. So to that end, you can probably forgive it for any of the flaws that you might come up with initially. This is a phone that maybe has a very specific kind of use case for it, and I'm sure people can use their imagination as far as what that might be. But $150 to $200 just right out of the gate, not bad for a phone that you can kind of play around with and really kind of make your own, depending on how much knowledge you have about what happens on the back end and stuff. Do you think Android and iOS could learn something from this device based on your time with it?
I mean, like I said, Android and iOS are pretty good now about having software limitations in place where an app can't go completely crazy by looking at everything you're doing and so on. I did note in one of the articles about this that iOS will turn your Bluetooth back on if you leave it off for a while. I think Android does something similar, maybe not with Bluetooth, but with Wi-Fi. So there's definitely some things in those operating systems that sort of treat you as you don't know what you're doing with your computer. We need to, help step in. And the PinePhone is the polar opposite. It's you're in full, for better or worse, you're in full control of your smartphone.
Right. I love it. That could be their tagline. For better or worse, you're in full control.